Welcome back to My Conscious Dad on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. If you're just joining us today, we are talking about fearful parenting. And we had two really great guests who kind of started off the conversation. One of the things that I wanted to kind of talk about before we jump into the next thing is you kind of mentioned when we were talking about enabling the idea of overloving, I think is what you called it, overloving your kids. And I think a lot of the times people confuse enabling and love as the same thing. And they're, in my opinion, they're not the same thing. So I'm not really sure I agree with the idea that people overlove their kids so much that they enable them. I think that they probably love their kids just as much as everybody else, and they maybe picked up some bad habits, or maybe they're afraid, so that's why they enable people. But I just kind of wanted to put my 2 cents or my opinion as to the idea that loving and enabling are not the same thing.
Yeah, I only call it overloving. I like I said, I'm not sure if there's a term or if I'm making it up. We're always making up our own reality. But from my experience, it seems to be all the people that I've, sat with and coached and done work with. When it comes to enabling, I ask them, why do you do what you do? Why do you jump in and save them? Why do you make it easier for them? Why do you go in there and bail them out? Why do you do all those things? And it's every time they respond, it always comes from this part of them deep down inside. It's because I love them, but it's almost like I love them so much that I don't want them to hurt. I love them so much that I don't want them to feel pain. I love them so much I don't want them to fail. I love them so much. So that's why I say loving them too much. That's why I say over loving. But like I said, again, it's just my perspective. It just seems that, there's a common denominator in the people that are enabling their kids is that they have this deep love for them, that they don't want them to hurt themselves, or they want to save them or rescue them, rather than the parents that from my perspective, when I look at them, I can see them, not giving them attention, not giving their kids the fundamentals that they need, emotionally and spiritually, and giving them those kinds of things. I can easily make up a belief or a story that they underlove their kids, right? Right,
and that makes sense to me. I think, and as you're sharing that, I think I kind of realized too that parents, there's a lot of things that they can't control, but if they can help their kid, they will. So if that's in their control, they don't want them to be hurt, then they're going to do everything that they can, versus things are out of their control. For instance, if their kid loses someone special, that's out of their control. Their kid is going to hurt. But if their kid needs help in school or with a grade or something, and they know that they can help, they're going to, maybe they'll enable them and do their project for them because they don't want to see them fail. And it's a little bit of a control thing. So they do it because they can. They have the control to do it, so they will.
Another thing, I think it opens up the possibility of really looking at, what does help look like to you? When you say, I want to help my son, I want to help my daughter. Okay, great. What does help look like to you? Because to me, help doesn't look the same as yours does. And when I ask you, what does help look like? Yours might be, well, help looks like I'm giving them the money to pay whatever it is that they owe, or help looks like I'm, bailing them out of jail, or help looks like I'm doing these things. And for me, help might not necessarily look like that. For me, help looks like I'm there while you're in jail and I'm assisting you. I'm meeting you halfway. My motto is, when I coach parents, is you shouldn't want something more for your kids than they want for themselves. So you need to look at a certain percentage. And for me, what I do is, like, when you come, Jasmine, to me with a request, I'm really looking at your eyes and your mannerism and the music behind your words, because I want to see how bad you want it. I'm not going to get excited about something that you come to me with that you only have a 30% excitement, and I get all excited at 120%, because then what's going to happen is I'm going to be the one over there doing all the work and driving it, and then that's going to cause some resentment, going, hey, what's going on? How did your dream and your vision end up turning to me now being my dream and my vision? Does that make sense? So what I've trained myself is, I wait for you to want it 80% or 120%, and then I'll bring my 40.
Right. And I was just going to say that a lot of the times when I am asking for help or when I do need something from you, I come with, this is what I'm going to do and this is what I need from you. So I really think about, okay, how much can I do? Because I'm not going to put more work onto dad or mom. I'm going to do as much as I can and whatever I just possibly cannot fit into my schedule or my little circle of things I need to do. Those are going to be the things that I'm going to ask for help for, because like you said, I'm not going to give you 60% of the work. I would like to, maybe only give you 30% or maybe we can go 50-50, but I'm never, I don't know about never, but for the most part, I'm never going to come to you without a plan, or I'm not going to ask for something that I don't think I really want bad enough, because if I did want it bad enough, I would, for the most part, be able to do it on my own.
Yeah, but you weren't born like that. I need to articulate. You weren't born like that. You, when you were younger, you used to come to me with things. I think it was a lot of times I would send you back and say stuff like, all right, when you get a little more clarity, come back and tell me what it's going to look like. I think me and your mom have trained you to, both you and your siblings, to come to us with a game plan. Have we not?
Yeah.
A lot of times when you come to us, it's like, okay, great. How are you going to make that work? And then the look on your face is like, and it's almost like the look on your face, almost, if I could put words to it, it's like, oh, well, you're not going to do that for me. So when I ask you, great, how are you going to manifest that, or how are you going to create that, is us telling you, great, go create a game plan, and then bring your game plan to us. Let us look at it, and then we'll let you know, I love the game plan. I think it's an awesome idea. This is how we can support you. And then you give us an opportunity to let you know at what capacity we're going to support. But we're not going to drive it. I'm clear I'm not going to drive yours, because then it becomes mine. Then it's my responsibility, my burden, my stress. And then there's just going to come resentment from that when I notice you're not driving it no more.
Right. And if I can, you're saying that, I wasn't born like this. This is years and years of coaching and parental style coaching, that got me to be this way and to have this plan when I need help. But if I could share a story, like when I was younger, real quick, that I think things like this kind of made me this way, or shaped me to be like this. And when I was younger, I wanted to put a shelf up in my room. And I remember I just wasn't going to I knew I wasn't going to do it. I was going to ask Dad to do it. So I'd ask you all the time. And you would always tell me, like, it's, I'll get to it. So I finally put the shelf up by myself. And I was like, oh, I don't need Dad to put this shelf up. But as the years went on, there was other little things that I realized I could do on my own. Painting my room, putting my bed up, just little things that I normally would have asked you for. And I know that at that time you were probably busy, but knowing you probably just consciously was like, she'll figure it out, or but things like that made me realize that I'm not going to go to you until I absolutely need it. Because I know, for example, I have a lot of friends, even my little sister, she'll go ask for help for things that she can probably do. And I'll see you still. I mean, she's almost, 19 years old. I'll see you still. Go try it and then come back. And she'll be like, all right. So it's sending them back once or twice, even once. It just only takes one time to send them back, see if they can do it. Because if they haven't even attempted it and you're already jumping in to do it for them and fix it and pretty much control and run their whole life according to whenever they ask you, I guess.
Well, yeah, but for me, what clicks on my mind when you're coming to ask me for that is I start thinking of this. How is she going to handle when she becomes 25 or 27 or 30 and she has her own place? How is she going to handle her washing machine when it starts to, not turn the right way, or when it doesn't turn on? You're going to be calling me for everything, going, hey, my machine's not working. And then I'm going to say, well, check the plug. Did you plug it in? And you're going to go, oh. Like, I want you to have some critical thinking. I want you to really train yourself to think outside the box and do all. But if I'm always in there saving you or doing it for you, you're not going to learn those skills. So there's, and even though in the deepest part of my heart, I want to be that for you. I want to be that dad that you turn to and all that. But I don't want to rob you from the opportunity for you to realize for yourself that you are competent, that you are powerful, you are creative, you can think outside the box, you can go within yourself and find that champion inside of you, and you can persevere. I don't want to take that from you. And so there's a part of me that I've been struggling for the last 20 years is finding those moments when, you know, I got to say no. I get to say no. And then there's those times when I, you know, now want to help you. And the classic story that I tell all my friends and my clients is, you know, when you first got your car and you wanted to, you know, put oil in it for the very first time, you were like, hey, how do I do this? And I remember going out there and showing you, you know, or I remember, well, from what I remember is I didn't show you. I kind of just opened the hood and I explained it to you. And I said, see that knob there? You got to twist that off. And I let you do it mechanically so that you can feel what it feels like, get your hands all oily. And I remember you kind of being upset because you thought I was going to do it. And you were mad at me, right? And you were tearing up and there was huffing and puffing. But I was like, look, you want to be responsible and you want to have a car and you wanted all that. This is what comes with it. I wanted to teach you that. And so I was standing there guiding you for the first time. And then the next couple of times when you wanted, it was time to change your oil or add more oil to it. I remember you coming to me and I was like, come on, you know how to do it. And it forced you to go out and do it, and you were mad. I remember you being upset at me. And then let's say 5 or 6 times after that, let's say I drove your car and I can hear it like pinging or knocking, and I was like, you need oil. So I would go get the oil, and I remember now wanting to help you, and you're like, move out the way. And you were like, you were trying to do it yourself. And I was like, then I had to pull you back and go, there are certain times now that I know that you learned it, now I want to do it for you. Now I want to help you. And it was kind of a weird experience because it was almost like I trained you not to need me. So when I wanted to take care of you, you didn't want it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like it's also a double-edged sword. If I'm training you and teaching you and taking those moments to let you learn the perseverance and the confidence and the surety to handle your own circumstances in life, there's a double-edged sword, because now when I want to come in and give that to you, in your mind, it's like, well, that's great, but I got this. Like, you know, you're like, move out the way, Dad, I got this.
And I think that's what parents are probably most afraid of, is maybe their kids becoming a little too independent to the point where they might not need you anymore, or you make up in your mind as a parent, my kid doesn't need me anymore, but really they don't need you for those things anymore. But
I wasn't doing it because I needed to be needed. I did it because you're my baby, you're my daughter, I love you, and I want to give, I want to be in contribution, I want to do it. It was more like a gift. I wanted to give it to you.
Right. I'm saying that parents, I think they enable kids because they want to be needed.
Absolutely. I'm not arguing with you. I'm actually in agreement. They are actually doing it because some parents need to be needed. There's some parents, there's a possibility that you don't feel like you're worthy, or you don't feel like you have a purpose. And, you know, it's also common is parents, when they're young, especially like moms, let's say I'm coaching moms and they're struggling now, you know, because their kids are 17, 18 years old or 25 years old. A lot of the times the moms will say to me, I don't know what to do with myself. I don't have a passion or a goal. I'm lost. And then I'll have to explain to them, this is common because when you're a mom for the very first time, you become that mom. You take on that role that becomes your purpose, is guiding your kids. And when now they're 18, 20, 25 years old and they're flapping their own wings and handling their own life, it's almost like no one needs you anymore. And you feel like there's no purpose. You feel like, now what do I do? Because you've put your whole identity into being that mom and being needed by somebody. And then when they're gone, you feel empty. You feel this empty void inside. And that's a natural thing. It's common, very, very common. That's why I have, you know, a lot of, parents coming to me, especially when their kids fly the nest, they kind of have this unfulfilled feeling. And a lot of times it's because of that.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because as far as being afraid in parenting, I feel like I say this all the time. I think I said this 2 weeks ago in the other show with Sue, but I'm going to repeat it again because I think it's very important. okay to tell your kids that you're afraid. We want to know that that's why you're doing what you do, because we want to know why everything. We want to know why you went to the store. We want to know why you're making dinner. We want to know everything. So if you make a decision and you know it's out of fear, please, please, please tell us, because it's going to make us feel so much better. And I think it'll make you feel better too, because the way we react is going to be a lot different. Normally we'd probably go storm in our room and slam the door. But if we know that you made this decision, or you're telling us no because you're afraid, it changes the game, because
it totally does.
Because you're willing to be vulnerable, and now I'm willing to be vulnerable, and now we can figure it out together.
But the ego won't let you say, I'm afraid.
Right.
The ego won't let you say you're afraid, because it's afraid to say that I'm afraid. So now you got to ask yourself, why would you be afraid to tell your kids that you're afraid? Now you got to answer that question. And if I really look at that question, I got to look at, I'm afraid to tell my kids that I'm afraid because I'm afraid that they will think that I don't have all the answers, which technically you don't.
Right.
You don't have all the answers. So why not stop playing the game and pretending that you do have all the answers, and just live an honest life? Just be an honest parent. Be authentic and saying, you know what, son, I don't know that answer. I think you empower your kids. You inspire them when you're just being truthful and honest and say, I don't know, or I'm afraid, or, this is the reason why I did that is because I was afraid that you were going to X, Y, and Z. And so I think that's the kind of conscious parenting that our kids need from us today, to be able to develop emotional intelligence, and really. And another thing is that as you're telling your kids, as you're having the courage to tell your son or daughter that you're afraid, you're now teaching them that it's okay for them to tell you, hey, mom, I need to let you know that I'm really afraid for tomorrow. It's funny how we want our kids to be open and honest with us, but we don't look at ourselves and realize how I'm not being open and honest to you as an example.
Right. It's like the golden rule: treat people the way you want to be treated. It's if you want someone to be vulnerable, you have to be vulnerable first. And I don't want to say it's the responsibility of the parent, but I'm going to say it's the responsibility of the parent. So we'll get back to more after the break. Stay tuned for more of My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Welcome back to My Conscious Dad on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. If you're just joining us today, we talked about fearful parenting with two very special guests. If you miss any of it, or you want to hear it again, you can always find our podcast online. So we're going to go ahead and go over a quick recap so you can find out what you missed. So today we talked about getting on the same page when you're raising a child.
We talked about giving your child a chance to fail. It's okay.
We talked about over-loving, or what we call enabling your children.
We talked about fear showing up in many different forms.
We talked about what you, as the parent, is afraid of.
We talked about conscious parenting and asking open-ended questions to your kids.
We talked about forcing yourself at times to not help and cave in.
And we also talked about the possibility of guiding and facilitating the process of your kids growing up rather than enabling them.
And we talked about parents being afraid of not being needed. That was actually a really great show, and I feel like we got mostly what parents are afraid of, I think, from a kid's perspective. So
I think we just scratched the surface. I think there's like a whole series of it. The way that they were, Sue and Aaron were talking about, they have their own series of, talking about, all the fears that come up. And we're just scratching the surface. And if you're listening and you're kind of identifying that, hey, I got some of that, or that sounds like me, this is an introduction to conscious parenting, and realizing that there could be some work that you get to work on yourself to help create a space for your kids to really discover their authentic self, their personal power, and building them up to be champions in life.
Right. Sounds great. And next week, we're going to have another contributing author to your new book.
Really good friend of mine. I'm excited about it.
Right. So your new book, Empowering and Inspiring Your Teenager. We've had Sue so far, I believe, is the only contributing author.
We've had Sue, and we also had Kelly Sanchez that was here last week. Unfortunately, you weren't able to make it because of some of your commitments. But we have Terry Lynn Werner coming in next Friday. She's going to be a contributing author on the subject called authenticity. Now, in case you didn't realize this, Empowering, Inspiring Your Teenager, it's also, the subtitle is called The Magical Ingredients for Successful Parenting. And the magical ingredients is going to be the distinctions of different ways of being that you get to bring as a parent, that I think that a lot of times gets overlooked. A lot of times we read books or articles or blogs about what do I need to do to be a better parent? How do I do it better? How do I do it different? Or these are the top 10 tips to do. It's all about doing this, and it's more about the mechanics of parenting rather than who am I not being or who do I need to be to inspire, empower my kids. And so Terry Lynn is she's an absolute, amazing coach, and she's a facilitator for ropes courses up in the mountains where they do some powerful team building. She's an extraordinary woman. I can't wait to get her in the hot seat and get her on the radio and really talk about authenticity and really break down what it means to be authentic. And it's going to be a great conversation. I can't wait.
All right, I'm excited for this conversation solely for the purpose of, I'm sure the ego of the parent is going to come up, and I'm really excited to tackle that.
You don't really know that your ego's out until you become conscious.
Right.
Until you realize and identify, wow, that was my ego. Or when you're walking out of a place or walking into a place and you can identify that you brought your ego in with you, that's when you start to have that new awakening and start realizing, if that's my ego, then who am I? And if you're wondering who you are, then now you started this journey of figuring out who is the authentic me, who's the authentic self of me.
Right. I think introduction or the idea that maybe you're living your life according to your ego could be such a great gift, like you said, to walk into a room and be like, or walk out of a room and be like, that was my ego in there, and to really just be conscious and know what that is such a gift. You just have to be willing to acknowledge it as a gift. And
it takes some courage. It really does take some courage to look at that and see what's really going on, the games that your ego plays, all the things that your ego does or says to you to keep you safe, all the fears and all the insecurities that it pulls up to not let you just be who you really are. And I think that's the great discovery of going down personal development journey, is realizing, finding who you really are, so you don't have to practice or pretend to be something that you're really not.
Right. I'm really excited to see what Terry Lynn has to bring. Maybe she'll give us a little insight to her contributing.
Well, this is what she's going to bring. When she walks in, you're going to see authenticity in like real form. She is the epitome of authenticity. I love this woman. When she walks in, you get there's no fake, there's no trying. She's just her, and that's what's so powerful about her. And I can't wait.
Right. I'm really excited. And next week we're gonna have Terry Lynn. She's gonna be talking about authenticity and her contributing to your book, and I'm really excited about that book coming out, and I'm just waiting for it to hurry up and come out.
Oh, by the way, I have a new training. We just declared a new training. You know what it's gonna be for?
Parents and teens.
It's going to be for grandparents. No, I'm just kidding. It's actually going to be for young adults.
Oh, cool.
18 to 25. And guess who I'm planning to be there to help staff and help set this tone and really create some extraordinary breakthroughs for not only herself, but also be in contribution to all the powerful young adults in our community to really learn and discover what's amazing about them and really tap into that.
That sounds great. I'm really excited. If you want to sign up for that, I'm sure we'll have more information next week, and you can go ahead and sign up with us. Thank you so much for joining us today on My Conscious Dad with me, Jasmine Urbina, and my dad and co-host, Alex Urbina. We're here every Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.